Welcome to bowl season in the Sun Belt from our Bank Plus studio inside the Superdome. I'm Jack Benjamin as we get set to bring you the first of 7 bowl game previews. The Sun Belt is the highest bowl winning percentage in the college football playoff era at 65%. And with a record 7 Sun Belt schools going bowling this year, we'll see if the conference can continue its winning ways. To help break down every Sun Belt bowl game, we're fortunate to be joined by former NFL and Notre Dame linebacker and current ESPN college football analyst, Rocky Boiman. Rocky, great to have you here. We appreciate you taking the time. Before we dive into our first bowl game preview today, we've got to discuss this Sun Belt Conference as a whole this season, top to bottom. The depth has been on display. They're sending a record 7 schools to bowl games. What's impressed you the most about the Sun Belt?
Well, Jack, great to be with you here. I remember talking about during Sun Belt Conference Media Day, just the parity that is in this conference, and it didn't disappoint, right? We have, Troy, right, winning the Sun Belt, kind of coming out of nowhere. We had, of course, 4 new teams, 2 of which are going to bowls. So I just think it's a fun conference going all the way back to 2020. When they made the decision to play during COVID, I think really put them on the map, and the country got used to seeing Sun Belt teams and got used to seeing how fun and exciting this brand of football was, and it continues all the way through this year with these teams going to bowls. So another successful, fun year for the Sun Belt.
Well, we kick off bowl season in a big way this afternoon in Orlando as Sun Belt champion Troy takes on Conference USA champion UTSA in the Duluth Trading Cure Bowl, in the only bowl game set to feature a pair of conference champions. The Trojans and Roadrunners have each won 10 straight games, which is the longest win streak among non-Autonomy 5 programs and is tied for the 3rd longest win streak nationally. Troy's making its 9th bowl appearance and first since 2018 and enters on a 4-game bowl winning streak, while UTSA makes its 3rd consecutive bowl appearance, but is seeking its first bowl victory in program history. The Trojans, who beat Coastal Carolina in convincing fashion 2 weeks ago to claim a record 7th Sun Belt crown, won their first conference title since 2017 and first outright championship since 2009. The Trojans are also ranked in all 3 major polls for the first time in school history, and at 24th in the college football playoff rankings, the Trojans ensured that the Sun Belt has had a team finish in the final CFP rankings in each of the past 4 seasons. So, Rocky, we talk about Troy. Amazing to consider that this is a team that had won 5 games each of the previous 2 seasons. Enter John Summerall as head coach, and boom, first year leading the Trojans. They've won 11 games, a conference title. It's led to him earning Sun Belt Coach of the Year honors. Very well deserved. You think about the job that he's done. What has stuck out to you about Troy, about why they've had this kind of success in John Summerall's first year?
Well, it's exactly what you said. Anyone who doesn't believe that culture is maybe the single most important factor on a football team, well, turn to Troy. I've covered Troy and done Troy games for a couple years, and you see these players out on the field, and you're like, wow, these are good players, but why the 3 straight seasons of no more than 5 wins? And then comes John Summerall, and a guy that I know is, he did a great job when he was at Kentucky, and the great culture they had there. So he comes in and takes essentially a lot of the same players, but finds a way to have those guys play as a team. They were a defense filled with incredible stats, but never you really saw the wins, right? So all those things coming together, the offense, get some more production out of the run game, Gunnar Watson having a nice season, all those things come together under the helm of John Summerall is what made this year such a success.
You mentioned the Troy defense this year, 8th nationally in scoring defense. They're allowing opponents just 17.5 points per game. Took Coastal Carolina until the final minute of that first half of the title game to just get on the board. What has made them so good this year in your eyes?
Yeah, well, I mean, Troy's always been an attacking style defense, and you got some of those names that have been around a while: T.J. Jackson, Richard Gibnor, Will Cholo, Javon Solomon. Again, would put up some nice individual stats in years past, but never really translated into wins. But I think now you're seeing a team that's playing complementary football, right? A defense that's finding a way not just to get big plays, but also able to stop maybe some of the explosive plays that they gave up in years past. That's the thing that really stands out to me in a conference that there's certainly a lot of offensive explosion. Troy can really play some defense.
You think about this Troy defense, Rocky, and you have to talk about Carlton Martial. Began his Troy career as a walk-on. Here he is today, Sun Belt Defensive Player of the Year and the FBS career record holder, 563 tackles. It's hard to comprehend. You're a former linebacker. Can you put into perspective for us his journey and how he's gone from a walk-on to one of the great linebackers in the history, not only of the Sun Belt, but in college football?
Well, yeah, I mean, despite Carl Marshall being a great linebacker, he's an even better human being. I got to talk with him a couple times over the years, last 2 years at Sun Belt Media Day, smile on his face all the time. And I would ask him, what makes you such a great linebacker? And essentially he would say instincts. And instincts are one of those things you kind of either got them or you don't, right? You kind of have a feel of where the ball's going or you don't. Hard to really coach that thing up. But Carl Marshall, probably ever since he was little, knew where that ball was going and knew how to get there in a manner and be physical with it. So to have him, cap off 563 tackles in a career NCAA record, and to do that, being a former walk-on is just tremendous. But you just can't say enough about the impact that a guy like him has had on this Troy program.
UTSA led Conference USA. They averaged nearly 40 points per game. Frank Harris, the MVP of CUSA, a dynamic player at quarterback. How do you see Troy trying to slow down this Roadrunners attack?
Yeah, well, you got to stop Frank Harris, the quarterback. I covered UTSA twice last year, including their bowl game. And Frank Harris, he's one of those guys that can be just so frustrating for a defense because you can have the perfect defense called, you can execute it perfectly, and then he just, when the play breaks down, can find a way to squirt forward and pick up some yards with his legs. He's so dangerous. There's a lot of Michael Vick to his game, just in his ability to create. So that's one thing where the speed and athleticism, I think, matches up well for what Troy has. But if they want to be successful, they've got to find a way to stop Frank Harris at quarterback. Michael
Vick, some high praise. So that's a load to worry about. Offensively for Troy, final thing for you here, Rocky. They've been pretty good these last couple weeks, 45-plus the last couple. We know what they threw up on Coastal in that Sun Belt title game. Kimani Vidal has been so good in the backfield, second-leading rusher in the Sun Belt. But their quarterback, Gunnar Watson, he's really played well down the stretch. What have you seen out of this offense about why they've been able to click on all cylinders here of late?
Well, it starts with the run game. Last year, they were 124th in the country in rush yardage. And again, you see on the roster Kimani Vidal, and your eyeballs tell you, hey, this is a really good running back. How come there isn't more production? Well, things came together this year. He goes over 1,000 yards. I think you pair that with how Gunnar Watson has finally come into his own, was able to push the ball downfield a little bit more, which is kind of one of his things he wasn't very good at in years past. A little bit more efficient with the football and not turning it over. So, again, those things coming together offensively, and then the team defense now with all those stars that they have, all that comes together, led by John Summerall, and you have just such a fantastic season for Troy.
And you have a team that's won 10 straight games. Rocky, we appreciate you joining us. Thanks for the insight, and looking forward to doing this 6 more times with you. A lot of Sun Belt Bowl games to preview. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Jack.
Well, Troy and UTSA will be meeting for the first time today in Orlando. Kickoff at Exploria Stadium is set for 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central, and the game can be seen nationally on ESPN with Beth Mowins, Kirk Morrison, and Stormy Bonatoni on the call. Be sure to follow all the Sunbelt football bowl season coverage with the handles @Sunbelt on Instagram and @SunbeltFB on Twitter. From the Sunbelt Conference Bank Plus studio, I'm Jack Benjamin. Enjoy the game, everyone.